SKOL Vikings, let's win this game.
Attention fan, an explosion of updates straight from Minnesota. The rookie quarterback speaks up after a painful setback, while the head coach fires off a short and devastating reaction that echoes through the locker room. Injuries are already taking out a key center, an emergency tackle, an impact linebacker, and even the running back who was supposed to be the offensive anchor. As if that weren't enough, an NFL legend questions the future of this team. And watch out. 5 major injuries are also hitting rivals hard, including the very next opponent in Week 3. How will this clash between the Vikings and Bengals unfold? All that and more you're about to find out right now. Welcome. Support this Vikings community with a like and a comment. Vikings fans are still feeling the weight after the loss to the Atlanta Falcons, and the image burned into everyone's mind was J.J. McCarthy taking his 6th sack and losing the ball early in the 4th quarter, a moment that practically sealed the game's fate. It wasn't just a play. It was a symbol of what this season's start has been. Flashes of promise mixed with brutal mistakes. And here comes the burning question. Can this kid really handle the weight of the jersey? Remember, despite the stumble, we're not talking about just any quarterback. This same McCarthy showed ice in his veins in the opener when he led an 11-point comeback against the Chicago Bears. He proved he has that spark that separates ordinary players from true leaders. But against the Falcons, it was a different story. Constant pressure, the offensive line collapsing, and an opponent that knew exactly how to exploit mistakes, controlling the clock and suffocating the game. Frustration hit the fan base hard, but McCarthy's words after the final whistle were strong and revealing. At just 22 years old, the young quarterback made it clear he's not running from responsibility. This is a long season. Everyone's telling me this is a freaking journey, and I believe that with all my heart. I've got a lot to fix, and I know I'm not alone. This group is special. There's love in that locker room, and we're going to grow together. That's what he said, and you could feel it wasn't just empty talk. It was his way of showing that, even stumbling early, there's conviction about the future. But let's be honest, words alone won't cut it. The reality is McCarthy already has 4 turnovers in just 2 games, and all of the team's points against the Falcons came from 2 field goals by Will Reichard. No touchdowns, no offensive spark to inspire confidence. That weighs heavy, even more when the stats show he was pressured on more than half his dropbacks, an alarming rate. With Darisaw out, Skol going down with injury, and raw rookies stepping in, protection turned into a nightmare. No quarterback survives under those conditions. And the most curious part? Even in that chaos, McCarthy looked steadier than many veterans would in the same situation. It's as if he were telling the fans, relax, it's just the beginning. But can the fan base, tired of years of ups and downs, really stay patient? If McCarthy's words showed resilience, Kevin O'Connell's were a cold slap of reality. The usually measured head coach didn't hide his disappointment after the Falcons' loss. Very disappointing performance tonight. 4 blunt words that echoed like a heavy sentence in the locker room. And let's be honest, there's nothing harder than hearing that so early in the season, on prime time, in front of millions. It was like O'Connell had slammed the panic button for the entire franchise. And you can't say he was exaggerating. The offense that showed life in the 4th quarter against the Bears simply didn't show up. McCarthy finished with only 158 passing yards, 2 turnovers, and no meaningful points. There was one spark, that 50-yard rope to Justin Jefferson before halftime. But right after that, the line collapsed again. 6 sacks, a lost fumble in dangerous territory, and the feeling that nothing in practice translated to the field. O'Connell, who defended the McCarthy project since draft day, is now forced to rethink the plan. Not because he lost faith in the kid, but because he realizes the system as it stands doesn't protect or showcase the quarterback's strengths. He saw firsthand a revamped Falcons pass rush wreak havoc, and he knows it'll happen again if adjustments aren't made. The fan base, always demanding, starts to wonder, are we about to go through an entire season of this roller coaster? Here's the delicate part. The Vikings invested heavily in the line. They brought in Ryan Kelly, signed Will Fries, spent a 1st-round pick on Donovan Jackson. On paper, protection should be solid, but what we saw was the opposite. A collapse that left O'Connell exposed and McCarthy vulnerable. The coach knows he can't just blame the quarterback's youth. He himself said, "We need to get back to the drawing board, clean up the execution, and find ways to simplify the offense." Words filled with frustration but also a trace of hope. The upcoming matchup against the Bengals is more than just a game. It's a trial by fire. Without Joe Burrow on the other sideline, this is the perfect chance to bounce back. But if the offense repeats the same mistakes and fails to produce, the criticism already swirling around Minneapolis will explode. And then, fan, Can O'Connell flip the switch in time, or are we watching the first cracks in a project that once promised so much? As if the loss wasn't enough, Vikings fans had to swallow another bitter pill. The injury list growing like a plague this early in the season. Every snap felt like a risk for another body hitting the sideline, and that destroys not just the game plan, but the team's confidence. When you see veterans limping off, starters entering concussion protocol, and backups thrown into the fire unprepared, it feels like luck just turned its back. Ryan Kelly was the first big blow. The veteran center, a cornerstone in McCarthy's protection calls, left with concussion symptoms. That's a huge concern, not only because it's another knock, but because of his long history with head and neck issues. Without him, rookie Michael Juergens made his NFL debut. He had guts, no doubt, but the difference between an inexperienced rookie and a seasoned vet handling ferocious defensive fronts was glaring. And if that wasn't bad enough, Justin Skule, already filling in for Christian Darrisaw, was also pulled for a concussion and didn't return. That forced Walter Rouse, nearly unknown in high-stakes games, onto the field. The result? McCarthy became an easy target, pressured nearly every down. No scheme survives when the line collapses like dominoes. On the other side of the ball, the nightmare continued. Gabriel Murphy, elevated because Andrew Van Ginkel was out with his own concussion, went down with a knee injury, and now awaits MRI results. The team, already stretched thin on defense, might lose another name that had impressed in preseason. And as if that wasn't enough, Aaron Jones also left the field clutching his hamstring. A tricky injury, sometimes minor, sometimes sidelining players for weeks. That's the situation Kevin O'Connell faces. Digging deep into the roster, forcing pieces into roles they weren't ready for. Fans look at this chaos and wonder, how long will this bad luck keep hitting? Because this isn't just about losing games, it's watching a promising season being eaten away by the injury bug. As if the loss didn't already crush morale in Minnesota, a powerful NFL voice decided to stir the pot even more. Richard Sherman, Super Bowl champion and one of today's most influential analysts, once again questioned if J.J. McCarthy is truly the answer for the Vikings. And this wasn't his first jab. Last week, even after the win against the Bears, he said it was way too early to crown anything. Now, after watching the kid throw 2 picks and no touchdowns, Sherman didn't hesitate. Still not sure he's the answer. Coming from a guy who knows what it takes to win on the biggest stage, those words carry weight. It's not just some hot take, it's a message that seeps into the locker room and messes with the psyche of a young team. If even NFL legends are doubting, how do you shield McCarthy from outside pressure? The fan base is split. Some see it as constructive criticism, others as provocation. But everyone feels the burden of riding with a rookie quarterback in a league that punishes mistakes. What's interesting is that McCarthy doesn't look rattled. If anything, he's doubling down on optimism, telling reporters the season is long and the team will grow together. He tries to tune out the noise, but is that enough when the pressure grows week after week? Fans and analysts in Minnesota know patience doesn't last forever. Here's the bottom line. McCarthy can't just be good. He has to prove he's special. When the team spends a high draft pick, when Jefferson and Addison are ready to shine, when the defense is improving, the responsibility to deliver falls squarely on the quarterback. Sherman knows that, and that's exactly why he pokes. He wants to see if the kid can carry that weight. The game against the Bengals this Sunday could be more than just another matchup. It's the kind of test that can silence critics or give them even more ammunition. And you, fan, do you believe McCarthy will turn this doubt into motivation, or will the outside noise start taking its toll too soon? While Minnesota wrestles with McCarthy, the line, and mounting injuries, there's another storyline that could shake up the entire season. Joe Burrow's drama in Cincinnati. Yes, fan, the very Bengals who face the Vikings next just saw their star quarterback leave with a toe injury. And when we talk about Burrow, we're talking about one of the most feared names in the league. A guy who threw 43 touchdowns last year and knows what it means to carry a team. Head coach Zach Taylor tried to downplay it, but Adam Schefter went straight to the point. This is serious, and it should be. Burrow's no stranger to the injury bug, forcing Jake Browning to start 7 games in 2023, finishing with 4 wins and 3 losses. On Sunday against the Jacksonville Jaguars, Browning stepped in again, throwing 2 touchdowns but also 3 interceptions that nearly cost them the game. And what does this mean for the Vikings? Simple. A rare window of opportunity. Facing Cincinnati without Burrow changes everything. The purple defense, which has shown flashes, could pin its ears back against a backup and force mistakes. This is exactly the kind of game that could flip the season's script. But beware, underestimating Browning would be poison. He's shown he can hang in, and even with inconsistency, he's got the arm to punish sloppy defenses. And it doesn't stop there. Around the league, the injury toll keeps rising. Justin Fields is in concussion protocol, Alex Highsmith has a sprained ankle, Kyle Van Noy left with a hamstring issue, and even TJ Edwards is battling setbacks. It feels like the season is charging a heavy tax right out of the gate. For the Vikings, this should be both a warning and inspiration. They're not alone in this struggle, but it's on them to turn adversity into fuel. So here's the direct question. Will the Vikings seize this chance against a weakened Bengals squad and prove to the league they're still alive? Or will another golden opportunity slip away? Fan, after such a chaotic week, the message is clear. The Vikings are at a crossroads. McCarthy faces heavy criticism, O'Connell demands more from the team, injuries are hitting hard, and even an NFL legend is casting doubt. But sometimes destiny cracks the door open and Burrow's absence could be the moment that flips the script. But none of this makes sense without you, Vikings fan, the energy that powers this team. Now is the time to support, question, and debate, because this journey is far from over. Which story grabbed you most, and what other moves does this team still need to make? Drop a comment, share this video, and hit that subscribe button for all the latest Vikings updates. Stay tuned. SKOL Vikings. Let's go.